builder, Mac Mahoney, who started a charity that raised money to get Jessica a transplant at Duke. The young girl was filled with hope.
I feel good.
How did an operation performed by a team of expert surgeons go so wrong? What it came down to was a failure to communicate basic information. Not one of the more than a dozen people working at Duke Hospital and the two organizations responsible for getting the new heart and lungs to Jesica Santillan ever cross-checked her blood type before the surgery to see if it was a match with the blood type of the donor. Ralph Snyderman is Chancellor for Health Affairs at Duke Hospital. What is the hospital's responsibility in this?
We take responsibility for our part in that error. What was missing is a backup system, redundancies, to protect a single oversight to lead to this kind of tragedy. With heart-lung transplantation in particular, there are a series of handoffs. The organs are sent to us from another institution. It is in those handoffs that the mistake occurred.
Those handoffs were set in motion when Dr. Jaggers received a phone call in the middle of the night. Carolina Donor Services, the local agency responsible for placing organs with compatible recipients, said it had found a donor in Boston for another one of Jaggers' patients. Dr. Jaggers says he couldn't use the organs for that patient and asked the agency if the heart and lungs would be appropriate for Jesica Santillan. Several hours later, he was told he could have the organs. Did you ever have a conversation with Carolina Donor Services in which you were informed of the donor's blood type?
You know, honestly, I don't think that I heard that.
They say that they told you about it in the telephone conversation in the morning. You have no recollection of that?
I have no recollection of them talking about the blood type.
You didn't ask them for any blood type information?
No, I didn't.
Should you have done that?
I had satisfied in my own mind that if they had offered the organs for me, that she was a match.
Looking back, knowing how wrong that assumption was, this must be very agonizing for you.
Yeah. I mean, the second guessing that you do personally is, we all do that. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Did I not understand them well? Did I not hear them right? Did I not, was I too asleep at 3 a.m. to think about this? You know, I'm ultimately responsible for this because I'm Jessica's doctor and I'm arranging all this. But honestly, I look back and if I'd have made one more phone call, or if I had told somebody else to make a phone call, or done something different, maybe it would have turned out differently. But you know, those are all 20/20 hindsight.
What ifs?
Yeah.
As soon as Dr. Jaggers found out that a heart and lungs were available for Jesica Santillan, he sent a member of his transplant team, Dr. Shu Lin, to procure them from the New England Organ Bank in Boston. While he was there, Dr. Lin was informed of the donor's blood type at least 3 times. But incredibly, he'd never been told Jessica's blood type. And so he didn't know the organs were a mismatch. And that was yet another flaw in the system, according to Dr. Dwayne Davis, head of Duke's transplant unit. Should he have known Jessica Santillan's blood type?
Dr. Lin was not in a position where it was part of the process. Should we as a group have made it mandatory that the procuring surgeon knew that? Yes. But it wasn't Dr. Lin's fault that he didn't know because that information wasn't conveyed to him.
From the donor to the recipient, there must have been at least a dozen doctors and nurses from Duke who were involved in this. How could, along the way, not one person among them see that this donor doesn't match this recipient?
This was a initial misassumption and never went back to kind of check it. It was like you start down a river and you just keep flowing with it, and no one bothers to go back and say, well, did we get on the right river?
And Dr. Davis says the initial mistake was made by his colleague, Dr. Jaggers.
I would say that it's routine for those of us who do this on a regular basis to ask what the blood type is.
So are you saying Dr. Jaggers should have asked?
should have asked, or I would say that that whole part should have been part of the equation.
So that this was a failure of the system as well as the individual.
Absolutely.
What may be the most disturbing is that UNOS, the national organization that oversees Carolina Donor Services and the New England Organ Bank, already had firm policies in place that should have prevented what happened to Jesica Santillan. Their policy requires that the blood types of donors and recipients be matched before releasing any organs. Lloyd Jordan runs Carolina Donor Services. Had you at Carolina Donor Services checked anywhere to determine what her blood type was to ensure that it was a match with the organs that were being donated?
No, we could have requested her blood type, and I wish we had of, but we did not do that.
In the days following her operation, Jesica Santillan's condition rapidly deteriorated, and doctors said her only hope for survival would be a second transplant. All the while, Duke had said nothing publicly about the mistake. And by the time Jesica did receive a second transplant nearly 2 weeks later, she was near death. Her family and Chief Advocate Mac Mahoney blamed Duke, saying if the hospital had gone public immediately, another set of organs would have been found sooner.
They let my baby lay on that bed in there for another 11 days before they managed to do something about it, before they decided to fess up to what they'd done. And in the meantime, all of her organs are ruined, and she's probably going to have brain damage. And, guess whose fault that gets to be?
Jesica Santillan had in fact suffered severe and irreversible brain damage. Tests showed she was brain dead. Doctors told the family they were going to stop the medicines and the machines that were helping Jesica to breathe. Her mother accused Duke Hospital of trying to murder her daughter.
I believe that they're taking her off the medicine little by little in order to kill her. They want to rid themselves of this problem.
It was Dr. Eva Grayek, the attending physician in the pediatric intensive care unit, who turned off the machines.
This was unquestionably the most difficult situation that I've been in, or painful situation. I wanted so badly to have something else to tell them, but I had to keep telling them, this isn't a coma, this isn't vegetative state, she's dead. We're so sorry, but she's dead.
You have been accused of taking away her life support.
But it wasn't life support, and her life was over.
The funeral was 4 days later. This case underscores the growing problem of medical mistakes, a reality that has become all too clear to Duke Hospital and its CEO, Dr. William Fulkerson.
The vast majority of time when medical errors occur, they don't occur because the people are bad. They occur because organizations haven't developed yet the kind of systems that we need to be able to catch errors and prevent errors. Medicine is a very human endeavor, and humans are fallible.
Since the death of Jesica Santillan, Duke Hospital has put steps into place to prevent this tragedy from happening again. Everyone directly involved in the organ transplant process is now required to check and double-check the blood type of an organ donor and recipient before a transplant ever takes place. Unfortunately, it was too late for Jesica Santillan. The family has said that Duke University, murdered their daughter.
I can understand their sadness and their despair about all this, and I think that all of us have a really tragic sense of loss about this. But I'm confident that we did everything we possibly could for Jesica. We acknowledged that an error was made. We did everything we could to save her, to get her new organs, to treat her medically. And as tragic as it is, sometimes things don't go the way you want them to.
Following investigations triggered by the death of Jesica Santillan, federal government regulators cited Duke University Hospital for multiple deficiencies in its organ transplant procedures. The hospital has since taken corrective action and is now in full compliance with all regulations.
I have good reason to set off more contented and certain than you can imagine.